All right, welcome back. I think this is now our fifth show, which is crazy to believe.
Whoa.
We are, on to one hand fully now. Um, I am not at the studio here, so we'll see how this Wi-Fi connection goes. Hopefully, I don't get kicked off site. I actually had to go into witness protection after a guy broke in last week.
Yeah.
You know, right? A cop broke in last week.
It's pretty much like what happened is I was like, okay, witness protection, gonna save myself, secure myself. Gonna go out of the state and get away. So that's what I did.
That's smart.
Hopefully, some things will cool down.
Block's too
Are
hot.
you in Jerry's living room?
No, I did not go that far.
Oh, okay.
I
Witness
just went a
protection
little.
doesn't allow me to reveal that, but yes, he is.
I just went a little south. My background actually looks like it's fake, so you may not know where I am actually.
Yeah.
Not a bathroom.
Not a bathroom. Nope. No, that was last stream.
No pun intended.
But no, so I think since we do these shows on Sundays, I think we'll start doing a week in sports and reviewing kind of some of the bigger stories. The first big story it's big because it involves somebody that doesn't really listen or pay attention to their surroundings, even though they've been told multiple times to not do the things that he does with firearms. And that would be John Morant getting suspended. Or not suspended, he's getting fined. He was suspended before. What was that, like 2 years ago he was suspended?
Yeah, right about 2 years ago from now, I think.
From all those videos, like in the club, in the car with his Glocks, trying to be hard. What a guy. But this time not suspended. He was fined $75,000, which first of all, $75,000 to an NBA player is like taking a penny from me. Like, what does that do? But he was fined. I think earlier last week he did the gun gesture or whatever after hitting a three. Adam Silver called him, and then he did it again in his game Thursday against Miami. And now they fine him. I mean, like finding somebody $75,000, like I said, isn't going to do anything. I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. This guy clearly doesn't listen and doesn't change. And I actually kind of think it's kind of bogus though, because a lot of guys do the three thing. Me putting this up, is that a gun? I don't know.
Texas Tech would be so down bad right now if they're in the NBA. Got to admit. But this is just, I think the reason this story gained so much traction is not just the fact that, of course, it's John Morant gun round whatever that we're at with this is like Memphis has been a mess. The Grizzlies just got rid of their head coach, and they're like still doing really well in the Western Conference. And add on the fact that this is the same guy that, like we were saying earlier, got suspended for a really significant amount of time for actually possessing a firearm, which turned into this whole. And I know last week we said we don't get political, and then we got political, right? But turned into a political debacle, depending on who you looked at and what news channel you watched, right? This was on all the big cable networks for however you wanted to feel about it. But yeah, this is a drop in the bucket, $75,000. But Memphis is a mess. Like there's so many weird things coming out of there, and their star player is now just being a goofball. It's like you didn't like. I don't get it. I don't get it. I get the fine. I get why. Like if you keep telling someone not to do something, then they do it. Okay, it's on them. But it's like that's just a really weird situation for a team that in the NBA at least has been very good. Like, but it's messy in Memphis. That's probably the biggest come away I had from this.
The Memphis Blues. This is what they're dealing with, Jerry.
Yeah, it's more than the Blues, man. Like, it's just a mess, and it's a weird mess that does not make sense for a team that is pretty young. They have Michigan State's own Jared Jackson Jr. Desmond Bane's been pretty solid. They're a young core, and it's like, but they're not the young core anymore. That's the Thunder, right? So you're starting to play figure it out time, and you have this guy who is so talented, so athletic, and has led this team to a lot of success in a short time, but also is doing dumb stuff. It's like, what happens when we start talking contracts? And you go, you got suspended for owning a gun, which take that where you will. That's its own problem, right? For depending on how you see it. But the NBA didn't like that. They told you they didn't like it. You got in trouble for that. you changed your ways to the NBA's liking, then you come back and you're like, hey, I'm going to do the celebration that they don't like and keep doing it. Now he's going to start costing himself real money because that's something that will definitely come up is you keep getting in trouble, Ja. We're not going to give you a max. So it feels like it's not the biggest headline. It is not the end of the world for the Memphis Grizzlies, but it is another weird thing to happen for a team that is trying to do some real things.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like, okay, if you keep doing this, I think the punishment is just going to escalate, right? And maybe next time it's not money, but you're suspended. And if your franchise guy is getting suspended for taunting, like you said, am I really going to pay this guy, a max deal? Because who knows, maybe 5 games out of the season he can't play because he's making gun gestures after. I mean, and he's a grown man. An adult is being told several times to not do something at work, right? And he's just not, I guess, mature enough to listen to the NBA. And like I said, it's eventually going to get to suspensions, and then, like you said, max deal comes around, and Ja's not going to get one if he can't play because he's being suspended for things he's doing on the court.
My final question, and Caleb, we can move on after this because we got a lot this week. It's been a busy week, right? Is what happens to all the how much money do the college football kids lose if this is what John Morant's losing? Do you remember? I think it's a South Carolina kid or like Florida kid who did the whole shotgun after a set, like a sack, like unloaded a whole shotgun clip. That takes some work, right? Like,
His arm was tired.
I mean, so like this is also a celebration that's become more prevalent too, just in general.
Yeah.
Take that for what you will. So I think that also is interesting, but it's like, I think it's more about the dude, not even the celebration. Like, because there are other guys who got away with it. Joakim Noah did it years ago after hitting mid-range jump shots, which was its own oddity with that jump shot he had. But like, he was doing the after hitting a free throw, and he was fine. But like, it's a young guy who has so much promise that could be costing himself down the road millions of dollars, and also costing his team playoff positioning or other things down the line, which that's, I think, the bigger takeaway and probably more frustrating for a Memphis fan base that's seeing a lot of the weird things happen all at once.
Yeah, and I think it probably is the gesture. I mean, because like I said, a lot of guys do this, right? But I think it goes into who did it and probably why they look at it even worse. And that's just what you have to deal with because you have priors, right? And stuff like that. We have some comments here, some guys that I don't know what they're doing. It looks like they're all on top of each other in the chat here. Make dumb choices, get consequences. Couldn't have said it better, Nolan Mark. And then has to, oh, dude, these guys are like on top of each other. Like, someone get them off of each other over here in the comments. Oh, here's another one from Luke.
You're talking about the beautiful game. This is when we start going into baseball, the American tradition that's getting ruined.
And torpedo bats are legal, folks. Like, people that are crying, they're legal. Okay, they're legal. They may look like bowling pins, but they're legal and they work, and people are using them effectively. It's more of like the bad hitters in baseball are using this. Because like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, they're not using it. Max Muncy for the Dodgers, he did use it, swung with it, hated it so much, he went back to his other bat and got a double off his regular bat. So it was this engineer that was with the Yankees. Now he's with the Marlins. He came up with this idea to basically give you the barrel lower down in a bigger sweet spot. Look, I don't have a problem with it. This is not a cheating advantage, in my opinion. This is one of those smart advantages that baseball has. I like it. I think it helps players that have struggled, and people, complain, oh, the olden days of the average and all that. This is going to help that. And basically, it's also one of those things, too, where it's like you either hit a home run or you're going to hit a very hard ball and maybe get out. So I don't have a problem with it, but it is legal for all the people that are crying, and it's just because it was the Yankees, but it is very much legal.
I love it. Go, Trev.
Yeah, I think that, like, in a time where pitching is so dominant, and I think, like I saw earlier, like, batting averages are some of the lowest they've ever been recently, and strikeout rates are really high. So it's like, why not give the offense a legal advantage? And I think I was reading earlier, this isn't the first season that they've ever even been used. Like, I think last year there were a couple instances of guys using them. And like you said, they're not for every hitter. Just because you have one doesn't mean you all of a sudden have this huge advantage. I was seeing a lot of guys, like, if they get pitches that are more inside or whatever, they'll use a different bat. Like, it's not just like, oh, you have this bat, so now all of a sudden home runs are 100% going to happen. Like, you still have to be a good hitter, but also at a time where baseball is so defensively based, where the defense has such an advantage because pitching has gotten so good. Why not give guys the ability to, poke some out of the? I mean, that's what everyone watches for, right? No one's watching for for the game to be 1-0, and then the guy struck out 10 people, and then that's like, people want to see home runs, they want to see bombs. Like, give it to them. Also, I saw that every single team has now requested these bats, like from the Louisville Slugger guy, whoever makes them. So I think we're going to see them. Doesn't mean that, like, they're 100% going to be the new thing. Like, it could just be like the hot topic this week. We realize that, yeah, they're not 100% going to hit home runs now. They're sweet spots. So yeah.
This is what baseball needs. Like, when is the last time the MLB has had a harmless controversy? Because every time we talk about baseball controversies, it's, the trash can, or, Sammy Sosa had a cork in his bat, or, oh my God, Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds are putting steroids in their bodies, right? Like, this is, it's harmless in a way, right? Yes, it changes a little bit of the game, but, like, it's not doing anything that is so amazingly different. Like, it's not like we've went from these 1-0 games, like Trevor was talking about, to insane blowouts every single moment. And the MLB has been trying to make the game more offensive, right? They banned the shift, which to this day I still hate at times. But, like, they've done things. They added a pitch clock, right, to speed the game up, force pitchers to not waste time. All these things to slowly bring more offense back. So instead of having to make some rule change, which everyone goes, I don't know, is this the future of baseball? Is baseball ruined? Oh, are they ruining the great American game? It's like, they just move the bat around a little bit. It's like changing a golf club. Like, this is awesome. And it will probably not make the end of the world. Some, like you were saying earlier, Caleb, some guys aren't hitting the ball that much better, right? But why not have some variance? Why not change things around? And you're getting people to talk about baseball in a way that's not this, oh my God, it's so controversial to think this guy's on steroids, or the sticky stuff for pitchers and stuff. It's not a cheating scandal. It's not some big thing. That it's just, they moved the bat within legal limits of the rules. This is awesome. The baseball needs more stuff like this, and not, that guy was using tarp or whatever, and his curveball had curved 8 more degrees, and now no one can hit the ball. Like that, this is what the game needs. And it is fun to have this be a headline, even if it's a controversy. In baseball standards, this is nothing. And that's good, because when's the last time you were talking about baseball past opening day?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's so funny, because it doesn't matter, like, in sports, how many teams get in a playoff or what we do to make changes. Everybody's going to complain and not be happy. But you have a sport in baseball who has done everything in their power in, I would say, the last 3 years, more than any other major sport in the world, to help their game and to make it better with the pitch clock, the bigger bases for more stealing. They're going to use robot umpires eventually. That will probably be next year. They used it in the minors. Figuring out bats that can help players. They are doing everything to help the game and fix the game, and it's worked, but people are still complaining. But if I'm baseball, I want this. I want people talking about these bats, because it gives more people to talk about baseball in a time where, that is looked at as maybe the third biggest sport in America anymore. So it's good. I mean, you complain that these guys can't hit, and then they get an advantage that is a legal advantage, and you complain about it. So, I mean, you can't make everybody happy, but it's just funny that everybody's like, oh, this is illegal. No, it's very much legal in the sports terms. All right, let's get to some comments here before we move on to the next thing. Torpedo bats saved Opie's career. Probably. This guy, Nolan Mark, maybe had a spasm out here. I don't know what he's saying.
Yeah, I think you know what he's saying if you read.
What the fans want. Okay. Barry Bonds GOAT. That's up for discussion. This comment comes from actually a very good pitcher in high school, maybe one of the best I've ever seen. 100%. If you go to a baseball game and both pitchers are on, scores 1-0 at the end, it's kind of boring. I mean, I agree with that, right?
Yeah, go ahead, Caleb. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, go.
And like that's not a bad thing that the score is 1-0 sometimes, because that is just kind of how baseball is. But if we want it to be entertaining, it is a business, just like the NBA and just like the NFL. It is an entertainment business. They make money off of people watching and coming to games and buying merchandise. Like if we are having these low score games, and what I also wanted to say is that the only people who are upset about this are these baseball purists who are like, that ruins the sanctity of the game. And those are the people who watch, all day baseball and they love the game and they're all about it. And I respect their opinion on this. But for the average viewer, which I think is what most businesses are trying to get, right? We have these guys who are going to watch every game, no matter what, because they love baseball. But then if you want people who are, kind of like me, where I'll catch a game every now and then, but I'm not going to sit down and watch every Cubs game or every Tigers game, whatever. If you want those guys to start watching, and ladies, if you want them to start watching the sport more, you need to make the sport more entertaining. And how do you do that? By doing things like this. And like you both said, this is legal. It's within the dimensions of what a bat is supposed to be. So, yeah.
Well, I think the other this is the last thing, and then I'll move on. Is baseball is one of those sports where it's so long that you only care about it in the beginning, you forget about it in the middle, you maybe tune into the home run derby and the all-star game, maybe. I don't know how many people do that anymore. And then you care about the playoffs. So you deal with these things, and also they're a sport that their contract with ESPN just got ripped up for the next 10 years. So they're doing everything that they can. So the baseball purist, well, there wouldn't be a game of baseball if you keep going on the way you want to worry about. So those guys that are 90, I'm sorry to say it, but you're ruining the game more than you're helping it.
Mm-hmm. And also, everyone's just mad because it's the Yankees. The Yankees,
kind of, they were the first ones. They had those so many home runs. Well, look at them now. I mean, it's gonna average out. Like a hitter that hits 200 is probably gonna end up hitting 200 at the end of the year.
Yeah. Caleb, before you move on, can you throw up Luke's most recent comment?
This one, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know how deep your guys' soccer bag is, so I can knock this one out.
I maybe played FIFA a couple times.
To appease our audience here,
I was thinking about anything over the pond, not really worried about. But go on.
I'll keep it quick because we got a lot going on. Very busy week. This is huge. To break this down I'm trying to think of how to break this down in terms for you guys in the immediate. Kevin De Bruyne is probably one of the best midfielders ever in the Premier League, which is arguably the best league of soccer.
The Premier League.
Premier League.
Harry Kane.
It's huge that he is leaving. And it is going to signal a lot of questions for Pep Guardiola and this team who's been so successful recently. He is tactically so fantastic, Pep is, at putting so many pieces together. And Man City's been this team that every year they win something under Pep with Kevin, but he's been the middleman. I would argue he's kind of like, I think he is, and Luke, maybe you could tell me if I'm right or wrong. He's kind of Steph. He is Steph Curry of the Premier League and of soccer, as in newer generation guy. It came in, maybe not in terms of changing the game as much as Steph did, but this major star for a certain thing. And he was a great midfielder, amazing passer, next level, an Arsenal guy. So I'm already sad. But Steph is probably the way you think of this. This is like Steph saying, I'm leaving the Warriors and I don't know where I'm going next. So it's a big deal, but Pep and Man City have always found a way to compensate when guys leave and move on, unless they get hit with these big charges that could drop them to God knows where. So big deal. And it's almost like an end of an era. So that's why I think I'll speak for the pod here, the group. It is a big deal in the soccer world. But I cannot in good conscience go against Pep Guardiola and be like, oh my God, this is the end. So we can go on to a sport that's kind of like soccer, hockey, where you get to hit people more on the ice. But both
Thank
have
God
offsides.
for
I
Jerry.
would
Thank God
just
we have
say
Jerry.
that you're so much of a ball knower, but you call it soccer, not football. So
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Football.
you American, like you just ruin everything, don't you?
Are you putting a tariff on if I say football?
Maybe. Who knows? I think that's supposed to be an ally over there, but it may not be in a month. All right, moving on to a sport that is coming from somebody that we are in negotiations with, the Northern Prince. Alexander Ovechkin passes Wayne Gretzky. Now, this was pretty cool, right? Like, you've been hyping it up. He was hurt earlier in the year with like a broken leg, and everybody's like, there's no way he'll be able to get it quick. Like, he'd probably get it the last game of the year. Well, he broke it today. And I think there's still maybe like half a month left in season or whatever. But he gets goal 895, making him the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer, which, if you know anything about hockey, Wayne Gretzky's records were thought to be unbreakable because, he's the great one. Like what he did, like his points record will never be touched. I think he's like 1,000 ahead of somebody on that. I don't know. Somebody could look that up. He's way ahead of that. But the goals was also something was like, people were like, there's no way. So he broke it today. It was really cool. I watched it live. I was able to see it. It was funny how they were like in the middle of the second period and they just shut the game down. They roll out the carpets, bring his family and Wayne Gretzky from the suites all the way down to the ice. The other team's just sitting there. It was a whole ordeal. I think, the NHL is one of those sports that has done a lot to help their status and their growth the last, I would say, months, a couple months to get out there. It was really good the way they did it. I have a couple stats here, which are they're actually kind of crazy. They talked about them on the broadcast, and then I'll kind of open it up. But both guys got to 894 is where Wayne Gretzky was, and he got to 895. Both did it in 1,487 games.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was cool that they played the exact same amount of games.
That is cool. And then, now Wayne Gretzky broke the record way before he finished with 894. But they talked about this on the broadcast. Gordie Howe held the goals record at the time for 31 years before Wayne Gretzky broke it. And then Wayne Gretzky held it for 31 years before Alexander Ovechkin broke it.
Jesus.
So my bet is in 31 years,
Connor
somebody
Bedard.
that's not even born is going to break the record. Connor Bedard will be like 60 at that thing. He could be. Gordie Howe played till he was like 60. But no, I think it was a great day for hockey. It was cool because it was a record that was thought to be unbreakable in any sport. It was finally broken. They did a very good job. I love how, this is coming from a Red Wings guy, but I loved how Wayne Gretzky also honored Gordie Howe with the 9 pin on his jacket, which if you know Wayne Gretzky, he would say that that's the greatest hockey player of all time. That's who he grew up watching. So it was just cool to see this history of all these generations kind of broken down. And it was just a cool day. His family was there. Everybody was excited. It was just a big ordeal. It was great to watch. It was fun to watch and something I will never forget watching in my life.
So I think with all these weird coincidences, I think that just proves that we're in a simulation.
Probably. Truman Show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a simulation. And it is what I really appreciate about this is like the best appetizer to playoff hockey you could get. On a year that, like earlier you said, Caleb, the NHL's done a very, very good job of picking themselves up and really promoting the brand. The Four Nations was an epic tournament that got so many viewers. Playoff hockey always garners some type of attention. It is, I argue, the best playoff system and best overall playoff experience because of the amount of chaos you can have, even with these high-level guys. And I think this happened at the right time because you have a lot of good hockey headlines that are hitting all at once. So you get this big one as a great appetizer to get people, even like me, who I'm not that big into hockey. I'm watching the Ovechkin record, right? That's something that's popping up on my timeline, something I'm keeping an eyeball on. And at the same time, now you have a couple games to where if the team behind me, the St. Louis Blues, keeps winning, they're the hottest team in hockey. They've won 12 in a row. They just broke a franchise record. They're coming into the wild card. You have so many other different great headlines coming in here to a tournament that it always delivers. Like we'll talk about March Madness in a couple of minutes, and for so long, everyone until this Final Four is like, this tournament's boring. It's not the same. You never hear that about the Stanley Cup. Something crazy always happens in the time to get to a cup. So to have this as your starting meal, to have this as the before, and not just the last game either, to where it felt like, oh man, Ovechkin just got it. Finally, cool. You have a couple games to now get kind of back into it and get into the swing, and watch him maybe break that record and go even further is so cool. And you don't get to experience history like this often. So yes, we live in a simulation, but it's cool every once in a while when the simulation gives us stuff like this. So
thank you, simulation.
Gotta take the good with the bad, right? Live in a simulation.
31
get to
years.
hockey records.
31 years. I'm hedging my bet right now. 31 years.
Wow. Over under 31 years.
Connor Bedard, you're gonna do it.
It's gonna be a push at 31 years on the dot.
Oh dang.
But
no, I mean, so did you guys know, speaking of the playoffs for hockey, did you know it's the Stanley Cup playoffs, but the Stanley Cup final?
I feel like I didn't know that, but when you tell me
Yeah.
that, it makes sense.
Yeah. Even though they play 7 games potentially in the Stanley Cup final.
Are you afraid that we're gonna get like a cease and desist if I just call it the Stanley Cup?
No, I don't care. Lord Stanley's Cup. I don't care what we call it. I just think it is interesting how they call it the Stanley Cup playoffs and then the Stanley Cup final.
Oh, just wait until you get into funny terminology. We have master stuff coming up. That's gonna really blow.
Yeah,
your
we're
mind.
gonna get there. We're gonna get there. But first, we're gonna get to one of the first teams for March Madness was crowned. The women's tournament is now over. UConn wins their record-setting 12th title, and that record-setting is any college in college basketball. So UCLA has their 11. UConn now has 12. Gino Auriemma's won every single one of those. He's built a program. Paige Beckers finally gets her first title. People have been claiming she's the best UConn player. Now they can really add to their argument. I don't believe that, but it was great to see. They won in dominating fashion, 82-59 against South Carolina. It was a good program. South Carolina was going for back-to-back and 3 out of 4. I also think it's the first time UConn's won since 2016, which is crazy to think, a drought like that. But yeah, it was – I mean, I don't really care for UConn, but that's just me growing up with the Notre Dame era with Muffet. They were always somebody you couldn't get by. But, no, it's a great program. It is crazy to see over decades that they can continue dominance, and 12 titles is crazy.
In, like, the way we're going to start talking about Gino Auriemma at some point, I like the conversations we're going to have around him. I'm so curious because obviously he is the best women's basketball coach of all time. I don't really think that's an argument. But also you under the wings here, you have Dawn Staley, who he disposed of this time, but will make her case if she keeps doing what she's doing. You know you're a good coach when everyone goes, they're doing too well. They get all the 5 stars. That's a terrible argument if you're not the person that's taking advantage of it, because that makes you sound like a wimp. So, yes, Gino is now in, I think he's 71. So my question is this, when do you hang it up if you're him, right? You've done everything you want. I wonder if this was kind of the last thing he needed was one more, right? Especially when we were talking about that drought. And what a good time for just women's basketball in general. Is the Paige bucket argument versus all the great UConn greats kind of oversold? Sure. But like, you're going to have her walk into the league now, the same league that has exploded in popularity majorly because of Caitlin Clark, but also so many other great talents and also great storylines, which I think has been the underrated part of this. Like, there's a reason. It's not just that Caitlin Clark shoots threes and then Angel Reese gets rebounds. Everyone's like, oh my God, the WNBA is back. It's the fact they hate each other. Like, it's the fact that they were talking smack, really more Angel Reese in that situation, right? Or LSU women's basketball was talking all that before that title game a year ago. And then now they're both in the pros. So you have all this great talent going on. You're going to have Paige walk in there. Juju will walk in before you know it. So you have these stars in place and you have storylines. It is a league that is controversial. It is a league that is interesting. So I'm curious to see what happens with Gino after a certain point. But what a great time for women's basketball, because you don't just have great players, you have great storylines that make me interested beyond screen and rolls, deep threes. And that's something you can't really generate. You just kind of have to hope happens, and they're banking on it right now.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I think what the thing with Gino is it was always like can you get to Pat Summitt, right? I think she has like 8 titles, I think, historically, which 8 titles is crazy in its own right. So it was always like, well, you got to get there. And then you got past there. And then it was like you get to 11, and then you're stuck at 11. It's very similar to me. It's like Coach K kind of. I know Coach K only won 5 titles, but it was very similar in you won those early. You had dominance there for like a 10-year stretch where you dominated. And then you had a lull, and then you won that final one. So it'll be interesting, like you said, how long does he coach? I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's going to retire, but it kind of, if I were him, it's like Paige Becker's kind of go out that way. You finally get her title, but we don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but it is crazy to think 12 titles at one place, an entire career. You keep breaking down those barriers to be like, okay, not only are you one of the greatest college coaches, but now you get into just coaches in general. Because he also has like gold medals, I think, for the Olympics. So you just continue on. He's a great coach. He's built a lot. And I think this has kind of humanized him, which I think helps in the regard of women's basketball in general. Because he's always kind of looked at as standoffish, kind of rude to some people, I think. And this, he's kind of more humanized. He's crying. He's emotional. So that could foreshadow some things too. All right, moving now to the Final Four on the men's side. Florida outlast Auburn last night. I will say that these are, in my recent memory, 2 of probably the greatest games I've watched collectively, I would say. You kind of feels like you have one game that is close and one game that's kind of a blowout. These games were both heaters, man. I mean, they were nuts. We'll start with the Florida game first. They ended up winning 79-73. They were down 8.5. It kind of felt like they didn't really have answers for Auburn and what they were doing early. But Florida has the guard play that you need to win these kind of tournaments. And that's what propelled them, in my opinion, watching the game, is they had Clayton and Auburn didn't. And Auburn got tired and they kind of outlasted them. They did some things that, it was interesting because they've played each other like, 3 or 4 times now?
Yeah, I think it would be that. I think that was the third because they didn't mean the SEC tournament.
Yeah. So,
so I think that's third.
So you have game plans, but then you throw something different. So it kind of felt like Florida needed adjustment at halftime. They came out and they did that. But Florida's one of those teams where it's like you think you have them dead, like they're dead, like, oh, we knocked the coffin out, but they just get back up, Undertaker style, and they keep pushing, and it's crazy. But yeah, it was fun to watch. It was one of those games where you're like, what the hell? Clayton does these moves, and his and one where he like just goes through the guy, falls down the ground. You can't stop that. That is just pure will. And for a guy that was at Ionia and now the big stage, it's great to see.
This game, first of all, if you tell me this is the least interesting of the two, is one crazy, right? If you tell me that right after the Florida Auburn game, you come from the future and you go, actually, the next game is going to be even crazier, I'm going to go, you're lying to me. Because this was high-level basketball. And it was these all 4 teams, because I know obviously we're going to talk about the next game, both Duke and Houston, right? These 4 teams are some of the best statistically, like Ken Pom, all those nerd numbers, telling you this was going to be 2 great basketball games, and they were. If I'm an Auburn fan, though, I am so mad because the answer they had all game that they did not go to, and it killed them this game and hurt them a lot of times this season, is giving the ball to Janai Broome and just letting him work. And I found it so fascinating because Michigan State was the same way too, where Janai Broome was absolutely dominating down low, would score basically every other bucket. Every time you gave him the ball, 2 dribbles down, beat up on the guy, hook layup, 2 points. It is almost a guarantee. And early in the game, that's what they did, is they gave the ball to Janai Broome, they wouldn't double him, he would score. And it was hard for Florida to keep up with because Auburn could slow down the game a little bit, and they're not Houston slow. So Houston, you think 30 seconds on the shot clock, they're going to take all 30. That's not how Auburn is, but Auburn will take their time. And they got a chance to do that, which really hurts Florida. They're fast. They want to move. But then they're like, oh, wait, we're up 8, 3 ball. Sure. Clang, fast break. Okay, that's a 5-point swing. And so many of those happened, and then they started playing fast and losing their cool. And Florida took advantage of that. And that's what was so interesting about this game, is that not only did it feel like Florida was dead in the water, it felt like Auburn had them figured out. And they did. Everything's pointed to them just going, if you do this, you win the game. And then they didn't do it. But that's what Auburn's done all year because they're super duper talented. They have decent guards that if they get hot, they could kill you. But at the same time, they shot themselves out of this game. They were taking threes they didn't need to, sped themselves up when they did not need to, and they had 12 turnovers in the second half. That's the most they've had all season. You know who really likes the fact they turned the ball over 12 times? The Florida Gators team that could throw lobs every which way second and had a guy jump damn near from the free throw line for doing one of those dunks. So, I was very impressed by Florida speeding up Auburn when they didn't need to, but disappointed that Auburn just didn't go back to what works. You could slow the game down when you have those leads and use the talent that you had. They weren't that deep into foul trouble where they had to worry that much. Then maybe it was Jani Broom's elbow or something else going on there, but he had the answers. He is your cheat code, and they decided not to use him when things got tough. And I will not understand. I still don't understand that. But kudos to Florida. Kudos to Walter Clayton Jr. 34 points. Sorry. He's just crazy. He's one of those guys. Whenever he shoots, you go, that ball's going in. Like he shot that one layup over the backboard, and I was like, oh, he probably got fouled. No, he did. But it doesn't matter. He's still at 34. Hit one from like the logo. Hit spin around threes. Like he'll keep that team in any game. He's insane.
Yeah, I've transitioned obviously since Duke lost. I kind of wish I was cheering for Florida the whole time because I really do like watching them play. I wasn't as familiar with their game before the tournament started, and as we've gotten deeper into the tournament, I've really enjoyed watching Florida play. So my pick for the for the championship has changed now. I think Florida is going to end up winning it, but I've really enjoyed watching Florida play. And to me, I don't know about you guys, but Auburn kind of felt like the villain of the tournament. Like I would just like I don't know. I felt like anyone but these guys. They give the ball to Broom, and it's just like kind of demoralizing how effortlessly he scores sometimes. Where I kind of just wanted to see him lose eventually. You see them lose eventually, and I'm glad this like really fun Florida team got to do that. So it was pretty cool.
Florida doesn't care. They want to win in football so badly that they might win an NBA. They might win a title here, and they're still going to be mad at Billy Napier. Like, can you imagine having that type of athletic program?
All of those SEC schools are that way, man. I mean, Auburn's like, oh, we had a great year in basketball, but no, like football, No, I mean, with the Auburn thing, I think it's sometimes you outsmart yourself, to be honest with you. You kind of do it. I mean, you kind of outsmart yourself. You get caught up in the game of like, oh, my God, they have a guard going off. We have a good young freshman guard. Like, let him play. But you get caught up in things. It kills you in the end because you get out of your skis. And Florida's one of those teams, and Houston's the exact same way. We'll talk about that next. But they do what they need to do, and they don't worry about what the score is, how much time's left on the clock. They just do what they need to do. They stay the course of their game, and they change it, and they don't change. And it's great to watch. And I don't know what that coach is doing. I mean, I wish he'd really get some dentures or whatever to fix his teeth at the gap. But the guy has a chance, I think, to be the youngest coach ever to win a championship, which is crazy. I think we have the oldest and the youngest guy going to win titles. Nuts. So with that being segue, we'll move into the Houston game here. It also looks like Jerry has a fan club here. Aiden Bell. This guy, Jerry, that people are now becoming fans of his.
I don't blame him.
It's not the point of the show, but whatever. The Houston Cougars stole a win last night. I mean, it was one of those things where I was like, there's no way they win this game. As a guy that picked Houston to win the whole thing, been riding with them, silently riding with them. I'm like, okay, I picked them, but when are they going to lose? When are they going to lose? They were down 14 at one point. I think the crazier says they were down 6 with 47 seconds left because a game of basketball is one of those where like the last 2 minutes in a close game, everybody hates it because it takes forever. But you're always like, oh, okay, but if that team is up, they're going to end up winning the game. Very rarely do we see it where it's like, oh, they can get the steal. Oh, they can get the turnover. Oh, they get the foul. Like very rarely do we see that, which made that so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because even with the team that has a 3-point lead with like 30 seconds left, you're like, okay, but they're going to get fouled, shoot their free throws, game's going to be over. That didn't happen. Like Houston stayed their course of the game. The youth of Duke finally hit them, in my opinion. And that's coaching and players-wise. John Shire's still very young in his tenure at Duke. Your best player is, yes, he's a great player. I mean, Cooper Flagg did some things yesterday. I was like, this guy's, there's no way he's 18 years old.
Yeah.
Like that block, the and one, like he just did things that was crazy, but you can't buy experience. Houston has that experience with coaching. LJ Cryer was like a backup on the Baylor team that won the championship a couple of years ago. They just have these guards. Their big man has been there like 20 years, it feels like. And it caught up to Duke. Houston stayed their course like Florida did, and it was very, very fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but when Duke was down by 1 and they had that timeout or whatever, I was like, oh, we get to watch like Cooper Flagg's March Madness moment. And when he missed that shot, obviously he's a great player, but like I like thought that was like the fairy tale moment for Cooper Flagg. He's gotten all this hype the whole tournament, and then to like if he would hit that shot to go up by 1 or whatever, and save their season basically. But yeah, I was fully convinced he was going to make a shot, and everyone knew the ball was going to him. But I really thought he was going to make that shot. But I don't even know. I mean, it was good defense, but I don't know. I felt like everything kind of went right, and he just kind of missed it, But I was very surprised when he missed that.
I was trying to think of how I wanted to think about this game. Obviously, watching it, you're just thinking it's chaos, and I come out of it just so impressed with Houston because the knock I've had on Houston, I've said it on the show, and I know I'm not the only one, is that they play really slow, and that really hurts when you get down to a certain point. Like all game, kind of Duke held like a 5 to 8-ish point lead. That really feels like a 10 to 15 point lead because it's not going to, you're not scoring the ball like this. So they really have to chip away at that deficit a minute at a time. But even when they were down 14, they didn't start speeding up their offense, trying to score super quick, take quick threes, somewhat like Auburn was doing when they were getting pressured up, where they started taking these weird threes that are contested with 20 seconds left in the shot clock when they could get a better look. Houston never did that. They played their whole game. You were talking about 40 seconds left when Houston's down 6. Leading into that possession, Duke has the ball with a minute. Houston does not press them. Houston lets them bring it up the court, lets them run 20 seconds off the clock, which when these really close game situations, these end game situations, for a team like Houston, the clock is your enemy, not just Duke, because it's how many seconds can we have the ball and they not have the ball to try to score and then not let them score, right? So for them to let 20 seconds run off the clock, play their defense, get the miss, come around, and not run a true fast break. Think like those Florida fast breaks where they're just sprinting down, dunk, super fast outlet, to bring the ball at their own tempo and pass back and forth a shot fake to get an open 3. That is unprecedented, to not worry about the clock at all. And at each moment, just chip away. Did Duke get really cold at a terrible time? Yes. That does not help when you're down 14 either way to not score outside of Cooper Flagg for about 10 plus minutes. Not good no matter who you are. But they almost got away with it. And that's what was so crazy. But that's what impressed me so much about Houston was they were them to a T. And even at the end of this game, when it came down to it, they did not change at all. They didn't play any faster. They didn't try to do anything different. The only major difference is they threw a press on them. They threw a simple man-to-man press. Duke ran the same set every single time and got both guys in the corner, either a timeout or a bad pass. And this one, it makes me very curious to see the future of John Shire. This team, at least in his 3-ish years out there, most talented team by far. I don't think that's a big question, right? You have the number 1 draft pick. You have a 7'2" guy who was defending guards at times on switches. A senior leader point guard and Sion James, Tyrese Proctor, who's kind of your heat check guy, Con Knipple, who's a lottery pick. If it's not them and you lose in this way, God, it's going to be so hard. And each year he's gotten better. Last year, this Duke team went down to NC State, their own ACC foe, right? The Cinderella DJ Burns-led team. But it's going to make things real interesting because you don't get much teams better than this. It feels very reminiscent of the 2019 Duke team that lost to North Carolina. Very talented, had all the pieces, just couldn't put it together at the end. But I came away with it more impressed than Houston being themselves to their core to win this game, and then Duke pooping their pants because they definitely helped Houston by not getting the ball in, by not hitting free throws. Think about that Tyrese Proctor free throw that leads when they are down 1 to get the free throws to go to 3. That was so impressive to me, and it makes it really hard for me to pick who wins this game because we just watched Florida speed up Auburn, which was my big takeaway from that game. I thought Duke was going to do that to Houston. They did not. So, this game was described ahead of time as the immovable force against an unstoppable object. Duke off a really high offensive team, Houston very defensive team. It feels like the team that loves to fast break versus the team that will sit there for 30 seconds. Huge stylistic clash and very good guard play. Caleb, talk for a little bit. I'll make a pick before that.
Yeah,
I'm so torn.
I'll get to some comments here. Someone said, Brandon Wilkins said him hitting that shot was in the script. The script that got burned up in a fire, clearly.
Yeah.
John Heyman says it was a masterpiece. It was a masterpiece. Like I said, that was March. I talked last week about how the Florida Texas Tech game was March. That was definitely March yesterday. Both those games were great. They were fun to watch. It was compelling. It's everything that you want. It is, Duke is probably the biggest brand because I think people either love or they hate them. They have an opinion of them. So for them to lose in that facet, I think some people loved. And it was, what is the show, White Lotus or whatever? People are using that meme. It was like it finally came back to get them. Here's another comment here. If you guys look back when they showed Coach K at like 1 minute on the clock, and it was just like he could tell something was going to happen. Yeah, because he's an experienced coach.
He wasn't smiling. That Nolan saying that when they panned to Mike, he was not smiling. He was sitting there. I think he did a little clap. Me and my family were talking about this post game. I called him to see what was going on. Gave a little golf clap. Not to transition to the Masters yet, but a little golf clap, and was like, "Wow." He knows that this stuff can happen. And what I was very interested in was that how effective that press was, but also it's bad if I could tell what you're going to do. One thing, we need to pass Cooper flag the ball for the game. Okay, I get that. When you run the same out of bounds play every single time,
and nobody comes to the ball,
and if I know you're going to do that, I know that everyone on Houston's bench knows that too. They know more ball. They've forgotten more ball than I know. So if I know what you're going to do, that's really bad. And that's going to be an indictment that will sit with Duke fans because that is frustrating to see your team go down. It's one thing to get cold. It's another to turn the ball over and be so uncharacteristically themselves in a moment like that to burn away what has been a very fantastic season. And he let, God, what's his name? And the post game just be like, oh yeah, Duke was 31-4 or whatever in the 2D2 league. We played the Big 12. That's making every Duke fan mad. And rightfully so.
Because Duke was Duke was hyped up as, and I'll read this last comment, then I'll say my statement here. Cooper Flag should be sent to the Pistons for that terrible. No, Hoxie, you're not just going to get him because of that bad play. This is not how this
works. They're sending him to the Hornets with LaMelo Ball. That's the problem.
This is not how this works. Like Nolan, who's in here watching, is like, oh, he's going to look great in a Celtics shirt. It's not how this works. Like this is not the 70s where like Larry Bird ends up on the Celtics. No, I mean it's the leading up to this game, and I get because sometimes, and this just shows how the media works sometimes, is they were talking about how Duke was lengthy and how they had such an advantage over Houston that they were starting to talk about how Houston players shot the basketball and how like Sharp and Cryer are shorter guys, shorter guards, and they don't shoot over their head. They shoot from the middle of their chest, and they're not going to be able to get shots off. That right there was like, what are we talking about? Because Cryer ended up having 26 points. Sharp had the pump fake 3 that Jerry was talking about. Like that right there is goofy. Like, but that shows you that nobody gave Houston a shot. Everybody wrote them off. They were the more experienced team, and they had the better guard play. In March, that plays 10 times out of 10, and it worked. But it was interesting because you had this team that was dominating. It looked like Duke was going to run away with it at certain points. But Houston's still there. They keep fighting. They stay there. And I think it's just more of a shock to everybody because it felt like one of those games is a foregone conclusion. Duke's winning it. and it didn't happen. The drama was there. It was great. And now it sets up the national title game where you have Houston versus Florida. Florida is a 1.5-point favorite. This game is tomorrow night at 8:50 on CBS, which I'm a big fan of the games going back to CBS on the championship. I know a couple years ago they did the TBS and stuff. No, stop with that. These companies that do the biggest sporting events that they have for the championship games on like their non-main network channel irritates me because you want viewership. Why do you think the Super Bowl gets so many people? Because it's on locals. So I'm glad it's on locals for everybody to watch. I think it's going to be a great game. Trevor picked Florida. Jerry's had his hands up because I think thumb up because I think your place is CBS, right?
Yeah, we love support your local television station and go Cougs.
Oh, you're picking Houston.
They were so impressive to
Wow.
me.
See now you ruined my Houston vibe here. Okay.
Okay, you know what? I'll go with Auburn. Does that make you feel better?
I don't care.
I was so wildly impressed with them. I will not to cut you off, Caleb. I'll try to keep this quick so we can talk the Masters. But like, you talk about two teams that thought they were both dead in the water. Both of them found ways to return. But Houston was so impressive to me because you're talking about how they were, everyone's talking about Duke can do this to Houston, this and that. For 39 minutes, they did, and it did not matter. And I wonder if Florida goes down like they did against Auburn at all, I think Houston can really choke them out because of how strong they are defensively and how they'll slow the game down and they do not get phased. And if there's any game that will show you a team will not get phased, it's being down 14 to arguably the most talented team in the tournament and doing the same stuff and it working. So, yep, Caleb, I'm ruining your vibe. I don't want you to have happiness. That is really my goal here as I make my fandom because this is about me now. Surprise.
That's not how the show works.
Yeah, well, guess all up top, baby.
It's not the point of this. No, I mean I've liked Houston. I've liked Houston. It feels like in every tournament the last 5-6 years. I have. I always am like they have the guard play, Calvin Sampson, good coach, and it always feels like they get to the moment and they get blown out. But they have the players now. They have the identity. They're great at executing in the biggest moments. And I know people hate the Patriots, but that's what made the Patriots so great for so many years is in the moments that were the biggest, they could execute it and make it look easy. Like that Purdue play that they had out of bounds, that right there shows you like their execution. And then they do it again. So I'm going to continue Houston just because I picked them. I could see Florida easily winning the game. It wouldn't shock me. I think it's going to be that great of a game. But I do like the matchup of Clayton versus Cryer. I think that will be fun. It's very underrated. I think they're two very underrated players, and now you get to this moment where everybody's like, oh, these guys are really good. They've been really good all year, but now they get this platform, so that's going to be fun. So Trevor goes Florida. Jerry ruins Houston for me, and I will stick with Houston. Also, Houston, this is another segue into our next topic here. This is how you do it in this business with great segues.
You guys are really good at this.
Jim Nantz is a Houston grad, was there, and Jim Nantz will be calling the Masters. Hello, friends. So we will get into our next thing here. All right. So I know we had the criminal on last week that broke into my house.
Yes.
And he brought up, let's do something for the Final Four with the punishment thing. I said, yeah, we could do that, but it felt rushed. So we're going to do that for the Masters. We are going to sit here and we are going to pick our teams. We're going to pick three. What are we going to do? 3 to 4 golfers here?
Let's see. How many people you have here? You have 10 people.
Well, I have the top 10, so we could do 3 or we could do
Caleb, how
3.
deep is your bag? Are you going past this top 10 odds right now on your little board there? I need to know this.
I mean,
on your board right now, how many people do you have? Not on this board, on their screen. On your little 8 pages of notes. How many people are on your board right now?
Actually, I'll just read the notes that I have. So I'll start with I don't even have any people written down, but I'll just start with the notes I have. Scotty Scheffler won last year. Rory McIlroy is coming in super, super hot. This is a crazy stat too. This was brought up. I think Barstool Riggs. I'll give people credit. This is what I do here. He looked at the length between Rory's last major win. If he doesn't win by the PGA, I think this summer, he will have a longer drought in between majors than Tiger Woods did when he won the 2019 Masters. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, that is wild. But Rory comes in hot. But I also wrote the best golfer at the time doesn't always win this tournament. This is one of those tournaments. It's kind of like the U.S. Open, where somebody that is like number 100th in the world gets into this. A la like Bubba Watson was this like 10 years ago, where this guy gets in and then he like somehow miraculously wins it. So this is one of those weird courses where it's like just because you're always the best player doesn't mean anything. But I mean, I don't know how deep we're going to go. We can pick 3 from the top 10, and then we can go long shot for the 4th if that's what we want to do.
I think that works. I had to make sure you weren't having someone that's secretly at like plus 5,000. You had like Will Zalatoris on your board over there, and you're trying to shock us with your second round pick or something.
I have Will Zalatoris in my fantasy golf thing, and he hasn't.
See,
done
he's playing fantasy golf and trying to get us to do
That's crazy.
That's devious. Devious.
I love fantasy golf. It's great. So I think the rules format here for people that just for people at home. So we'll do based off of where they end the week at. So if they're first, that's 1 point. So you want the lowest score. Kind of
like golf.
Yes, exactly.
This is what we do here.
We'll do it based off of their placing. So if someone picks Scotty Scheffler, he ends up second, you get 2 points. So you want the lowest score. I will type in everybody's name here on a generator for the picks here.
I'm scared. I'm nervous.
I'm going to end up eating olives. I could just feel it.
So basically, what's going to happen is the loser of this is going to have 5 foods that they dislike picked, and we'll spin. And if you lose, we'll spin it. Whatever it lands on, you get. You have to eat live on camera. We can do that right away after next week's Masters on the show, or we can wait a week. It's up to us. We can figure that out. But we will be live after the Masters ends. So we will have live points. So if somebody loses, I'm hoping I'm not going to lose. I'm confident I'm not going to lose. But if one of you two loses and you're like, I want to get it done and over with, or I want to stay on it or wait, we can do that. So I will spin the first wheel here. I'll do it on my phone. This lighting is awful. This will be for the first pick.
Couldn't tell you who's who on that one, but I'm going to hope it's me.
Who got the first pick? Oh, that would be Gerald Hopkins.
Bang. Give me Scotty Scheffler. Give me the odds favorite as the first pick. I know it's the easy one, but he's been fantastic. And I'm also thinking with my picks, I'm going to give away my secret sauce as someone who's watched like zero golf this year, is that, it's not guaranteed you pick the winner, but can I get guys in the top 5? How many guys can I keep that could have a blow-up round? Yeah. And Scotty is usually very, very good at being in deep on Sundays. So
if you pick a guy that misses the cut, you're screwed. I mean, that's going to kill you.
So you're telling me I can't pick Tiger?
Well, you could, but it's not going to help you.
Please, God.
All right. I'm confident I could get the third pick and still win this.
Dude, we got it.
Oh, Trevor, you are the second pick, so I am the last pick.
Ooh, I'll go with Rory.
The guy that struggles to make the cut here. So, yep, you have fun with that one.
The fantasy golf guy here is making us eat olives. I want that to be known. Everyone in the chat. Neither me or Trev knew that this guy plays fantasy golf for fun. And it set us up for a wheel of punishment to eat food we don't like. Oh man.
I hate pizza.
You hate pizza, yeah. Sardines on your pizza? There we go. I will go with the third favorite, Ludwig Oberg. Okay.
God, we're so chalk.
Oh man.
No, I'm basing off of this guy is ready to break out. When I watch golf, everybody's like, oh, this kid. He's like, he's made for the picture of golf. He's everything. His name does not sound anything like it's spelled out. So I'm going Oberg. We will not do snake draft, so Jerry, we'll swing it back to you.
I'm going to go a little bit lower. I won't keep it completely. As much as I love Colin Morikawa, give me Bryson DeChambeau. The guy who will take advantage of the course. One of the things I like the fact, Caleb, that you compared the Masters to the U.S. Open. I don't completely agree because the Masters is the same course every year, but the elements do play a factor more than I think other tournaments. But Bryson's been pretty good. If I remember, he does have a green jacket under himself. So again, we're trying to keep our score low. That's a guy I'm pretty confident will make the cut. We'll kind of be in it. So I do, you guys, as much as I may hate the fact he swings like insanely weird and looks like he's using steroids, I have a good feeling he'll stay long into the cut. And that's kind of what I'm going for here.
I can't believe that you picked a YouTuber. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah, he reaches out to all generations, and he also plays like half the events these other guys do, so he's well rested. That helps.
Ooh. Okay.
So Trevor, we're on to you.
I'm gonna go Xander Schauffele.
Shoffley, baby.
Yeah, he won 2 majors last year, so that's not a terrible pick.
That's a fun pick.
I like, I'm all about having fun, baby.
I will bring up a comment here that I think may hurt my chances. No one has won the Masters after not making the cut the following week. That includes Oberg, Decky. Yep, those are names.
You're the fantasy golf guy. You can't be acting like these are just names, dog. Come on.
It doesn't matter if he wins. I just need him to be low in the score, and I think Lovig Oberg is going to do that. Since he's still there, I will go Colin Morikawa. Iron play is a big deal at the Masters. If anybody knows, how can you hit the ball 150 feet in or 150 yards and in? So I'm going with Colin Morikawa. He's won a major before. He's a great player, and I think it's his time to wear the green jacket.
I knew you were going to pick him in that second round because I really was thinking I was torn between, but I didn't want us to be the most boring group of 3 people ever and go down this list and go 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got to sprinkle it in. And just to keep this going, keep me on the Live Tour as much as I despise the Live Tour. Brooks Koepka will keep it low. And that's something I like. I'm very much appreciating the fact that these guys don't play as much, which can be very hit or miss. And the ways they play are way more relaxed. But it goes 1 of 2 ways, which is either they bottom out because they haven't played a lot this year. So if they have a bad round or 2, you're not making it up, or you're really well rested. You've had all the time to prepare for big tournament X, Y, or Z, right? All the major championships. And I'm going to follow that logic to hope that I don't have to eat like olives on an Emo's pizza. So wish me luck as I start brainstorming my wild card pick.
Look, I think it's a great pick. I mean, no one's bigger Brooks guy than me. I love Brooks Koepka. He is the definition of male out there. If I could look like Brooks Koepka, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Wow.
It's not
mustache
a bad
has
pick.
to go. That's the thing. You get the mustache gone. Who knows?
Well, I'd have to get the chiseled body and the wife. And the
Do you have a crush on Brooks Koepka?
You go to a Granger gym, man. You got that.
Does this mean that we do a hot guys draft next week?
Honestly, that might be the best way to pick this.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
So this is maybe what we start doing, hot guy drafts.
Yeah, to probably give me a better chance.
Like we could do that.
Yeah.
That'll be down the road. There we can do different sports, hottest guys in different sports.
I got Scotty and Brooks Koepka. In the hot guy draft right now, I'm on fire.
You're doing good in the South. You're doing good in the South. I'll tell you that. All right, Trevor, your third pick here.
I'll go John Rahm.
Oh, John Rahm. Wow, you guys are real live guys. It's starting to see where you guys lie in life. For this next pick, I'm going to go off the top 10. I'm going to do 2 out of the top 10 picks. And this goes into like just knowing golf and knowing the tour, as they call it. I'm going to go with a guy who's played very well at Augusta before, 2019, actually. He has the caddy that won the 2019 Masters with Mr. Tiger Woods. I'm going with Patrick Cantlay.
I hate you. I was going to take that. Very good play.
I love Patrick Cantlay as well. He's ever since he went off at the Europe team for not wearing a hat. I love that guy. He's got moxie.
Yeah. Well, all right. We're doing our wild card picks, right?
Yeah.
Ones.
You can do top 10 or wild card. It doesn't matter.
No. Well, I think we've all picked up except like Hideki Matsuyama. So I might go Hideki. That's a great steal for a 4th round pick because, he's in the top 10. And again, my goal is survival.
Yeah.
So, let me slide in Hideki right there.
He's won it before, so it's good.
Yeah. Just a little sneaky one. Thanks for letting me have that one so you could take Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah. All right, Trevor, your last pick.
I'm going to take Justin Thomas.
Justin Thomas, JT. He's a guy that's played very well this year. It feels like he can shoot a 76 one day and shoot a 65 the next. So that would be very interesting.
Dang it. It's not a guy I want on my team.
But he's a good iron player, so he can play well there. Like he's won majors before, he can do it. All right, my last wild card is a guy that I feel like is always there in every tournament ever, especially the big ones. He performs for the heftier gentleman in the world, and I'm going to go with Shane Lowry with my last pick here.
Will Zalatoris is so mad at you after I name dropped him. Man.
Here's the deal. Like I said, I do fantasy golf. I have Will Zalatoris on the team. I was like, because in that, it was a tiered system. You picked what was it? You picked 7 guys from like the different like tiers, like top 10, top 20, whatever. You had 3 wild cards out of the top 100. So I picked Will Zalatoris, Jordan Spieth, and Brooks Koepka. And Will Zalatoris has done nothing for me this year. Nothing.
That's always the guy then who ends up doing really well. It's like,
yeah, I mean, he's golfed there, I
boom.
think, like 3 times, and he's gotten like top 5 every time. But I'm gonna say it's gonna be a little cold down there in Augusta, Georgia, and his back's gonna tighten up a little bit. So that's what I'm going with. So we will frantically be watching the Masters to see who has to eat their foods that they dislike. Let's go with some of the comments here. Some other people. Luke Hoxie has Rahm, DeChambeau, Hatton. And what's
Robert
McIntyre, great. And Nolan Marks says Hovland, Knapp, and Ludwig. So yeah, I mean, Victor Hovland's a good pick as well. No, this will be fun. Like I said, we'll figure this out. We'll be live next Sunday at 7, around the 7 time. After the Masters will be concluded at that point, so we will know the scores. We will tally them live. It'll be like. We'll be closing the polls and we will be tallying them for you and we'll get those out. But yeah, I mean, is there anything else you guys want to say? Anything else you're looking forward to this week in sports? Other than tomorrow's championship game and the Masters?
Well, I will add on the Masters. I get it. I just broke your rules, Caleb. That's what I do. But the Masters is so fun. And what I love about it is like, when you talk about
unlike any other, Jerry.
It's not just a tradition unlike any other, because that is absolutely correct. But it is the perfect mix of a course that these guys, especially your guys in the top flight, know and can score on, but has enough elements of surprise. You have a bad day down there in Augusta weather-wise, it changes the course dramatically. Where at other tournaments like the U.S. Open, that's a slugfest. Unless every 1 year they go like one really easy golf course. But like, it feels like the U.S. Open. It's like, oh, they won with 3 under, and it's so painful at times. TPC Sawgrass is the easiest course, I think, on all of them. So it's the best that golf gets every year because you have guys, you're not just watching for 1 under days, right? You're getting that scoring, and you're having guys who are showing off on a course that is scoreable, but it can create drama. And it does it very easily because it's not that easy. I think it's not just perfect because of how special it is, the traditions, the second cut, not the rough, all the ways it's described. Jim Nantz doing it for like 10 more years. Talk about a retirement
11
tour.
more years.
I say talk about a retirement tour here. But it's also the most enjoyable to watch because of the fact that it is a challenging course, but it's one that these guys can realistically have really good days on. And that creates that drama and that suspense. And it means Thursday I will be working super duper hard. Same thing with Friday because that tournament's on. So I'll be working twice as hard.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
If my employer's watching.
And I think they're also doing this year, I think on Saturday and Sunday, they're doing like 14 hours. So
Paramount Plus, baby.
If you have Paramount Plus, you can watch like the entire of everything. Because I know that's the thing with golf that people don't like is like it starts at like 2. You only get to watch like half the final rounds or whatever. This year, it's completely different. You'll be able to watch it. I will be watching Wednesday, Jerry, par 3. That's how much of a Masters guy I am. You clearly are not. I get it. It's whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
You're trying to say all these fancy words, azalea trees, like, all the cool stuff.
Well, if you're a real Masters guy, you don't call it the rough. You should know this. You're not allowed on the broadcast, by the way, to call the rough. It's the second cut.
If I am ever allowed on the Masters broadcast, I think hell is frozen over.
They're also patrons, by the way, Caleb. So when you and Jim Nance are side by side calling up the Masters in 11 years, when you take
That'd
over
be
a
great.
spot,
That'd be great.
remember they're patrons, and that is the second cut.
Yeah,
Please
we'll
do.
figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Masters guy.
Amen's Corner. Yeah, I know all about it. All right, last comment before we hop off here. Caleb, you hopping on the show? Maybe. We
That's
played
why the
last.
people watch.
We played last. We may stream it. We played some kids last night, and you want to talk about kids that don't see grass? It's those kids. Like, you want to talk about some sweaty kids? It's ridiculous. I'll end on this. We were in a game last night. So it was me, Nolan, and Luke Hoxie. We're in a game. It was 0-0 through 7 innings. It was a nail biter of a game. Nobody could hit anything. And then Nolan comes up to pitch because it's you get to play 3 people. You get to play up to 3 people, which is kind of cool. We put in a Aroldis Chapman thinking they can't hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. First pitch, they turn on an inside fastball 450 feet.
Was it a torpedo bat? That's the thing.
Yeah, probably. So then we're like, okay, 1-0, not bad. Like, we can get through that. Next pitch, they turn on like a sinker low. Boom. I'm like, these kids went from not being able to hit to being able to score 5 runs in 1 inning.
You described my plight as a White Sox fan so well.
It demoralizes you as a human. But all right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Next week, someone may be eating something that they don't like. If you want to tune in for potential vomit and throwing up, and you like that stuff, watch, because it probably will happen. Because I'll probably end up losing and have to eat a banana, and that will not be fun.
God dang it!
That's
you got to go grosser, Caleb.
No, that's just foods I just don't like.
Well, I'll put on a show if I lose. Don't worry.
I would only hope. But all right, that's gonna do it. Bye.
See ya.
Yeah.